Today is Australia Day, or Invasion Day, depending on who you ask, and it marks 378 years since the first fleet landed at Sydney Cove, New South Wales. So, who were the first fleet, and why are people calling it Invasion Day? Well, let me tell you for why. On the 26th of January 1788, Captain Arthur Phillip and the British colonists arrived from England. They had left Portsmouth on the 17th of May 1787 and numbered 11 ships carrying around 1,400 people. 700 of these people were convicts, having been sentenced to 7 years transportation, but in reality it did mean forever as they had to sort out their own passage back home, and Singapore Airlines weren't running that route at the time. Transportation of prisoners from the British Empire lasted 80 years, with 158,702 convicts being sent from Britain and Ireland. It was a hard life for the new settlers, who found that land was not hospitable for them. But they'd arrived with the plan of taking the land regardless of the fact that there were people already living there who did not want them to do that. Captain Phillip had been instructed that, by every possible means, to open an intercourse with the natives, and to conciliate their affections, enjoining all our subjects to live in amity and kindness with them. Oh, so how did that go? Well, we'd been there about a year when we started kidnapping people to teach them English, which didn't really endear us to the native population. And starting in 1794, the British carried out hundreds of massacres of First Nations people that lasted until at least the 1920s. Although Australia did become independent from Britain in 1901, so I guess by that point it was the Aussies doing it and not on us anymore. No, it was definitely still on us. Disease was the biggest killer though, as we brought smallpox, flu, and TB with us. There was an estimated decline of around 80% of the indigenous population by the second generation of colonisers being in Australia. I did want to make a more detailed video of all the awful things that have been done to the indigenous people of Australia, just to make people aware of just how awful the British and Australians have been, because we tend to gloss over that part of our history. But the deeper I got into it, I realised I probably won't be able to put that video out online on these platforms. What I will say is that the First Nation people of Australia are still suffering from the effects of British colonisation and racism. For example, according to the Australian Museum, one First Nations person is killed every 28 days in circumstances involving the police. Between 1910 and 1970, between 1 in 3 and 1 in 10 children of Indigenous people were forcibly taken from their families by the government and given to white families or institutions to try and assimilate them and ensure that the Indigenous population died out in what is known as the Stolen Generation. Indigenous people only make up about 3% of the population in Australia, but they make up around 25% of prisoners. For what it's worth, I would like to say that I am very sorry for what my ancestors did to your ancestors and your lands. It is shameful that it happened at all, and it is shameful that we do not even have the decency to educate our children about our crimes. And no shade on Australians, I love Australia, but personally I don't think there's much worth celebrating here. But happy Australia Day, I guess. Thanks for watching, why not subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.